honorable sisters, brothers, and friends, in my opinion, it is an emergency has occurred. It's been in the making for at least a couple of months. And what I have said and proved, but I'm only human, not more or less than any other human. There's no sense in beating a dead horse. The criminally insane, immoral, Hooverists, the King George, Queen Hoover, not democracy, hypocrisy, forces you. There's a natural tendency for them to say, if we at least irritate someone 24/7, that alone has to bring a reaction. And by Galileo, for every action is an equal and opposite reaction. So that's a scientific and social science truth, it appears. And that is, I'm going to temporarily suspend anything I do and have to concentrate, I'm forced, into the discipline of military science. For these reasons, I was told that in a high important project that we were really secretly at war, of course, with Russia, but more what we have to do is concentrate, because there would be a shooting war with China in 5 years. That was about 25 years ago. So naturally, this is for me, finally, I was, the way Hoover did it, that criminally insane Hoover, is that I would be fired from completing a project by some ruse, so he could write that I was incompetent, not a good employee. But then I had to really strive to get another type of work, another project. And boy, I hit a top one. And in this secret meeting, one of Hoover's representatives, they're distinguished gentlemen, they wear real good clothes, you know. Maybe out of Hong Kong, those expensive silk suits, you know, and so forth. That gamblers buy and kind of show off, you know. We will be in a shooting war in 5 years. Well, naturally, I say, well, I got to do what I can then for my country. Again, still, because certainly they're going to come to their senses and not keep killing off those that say Hoover has to be fired or replaced, and there has to be maybe a little better leader at the top. Well, the truth is that the U.S. refuses to sign a peace treaty with North Korea. So the U.S. is at war with the Koreans and the Chinese volunteers. They came in there to liberate and have them have their own North Korea at least. You understand? But that isn't talked about except once in a while. There is a constant war in Pakistan now of drones killing whoever they hit. There is the overwhelming war in Afghanistan. They had the excuse of the fella that kept telling them over and over again, I'm going to bomb you because you, militarists in the U.S., industrial militarists that are making billions upon billions of dollars with these wars, You keep giving the Zionists the planes, the tanks, the munitions, the money to keep expanding. And instead of there being at least a Palestine state, you won't do it. A fellow from the U.S. shot their president, who said, okay, tomorrow I'll sign, and there'll be a Palestine. And they shot him, so he wouldn't. That's their number one. You're not going to have a Palestine, because then they can stop. Then they can't expand because they're invading another country. But as it is now, they are retaliating against terrorists. Well, sure, you're going to do things out of frustration. But the Israelis themselves, I put forward a plan that would have gave them way more territory than they really is theirs, by putting a double fence. I had to put up a fence. I'm the only one that has a fence in my yard, because the Jewish fellow was running wild. Look, we have our own country. We now have our power. And after I helped him, gave him free water, helped him all I could, he was ruining my front lawn a second time. Well, the first time, okay, I'm helping you. And I told him, no, you and your gang are not going to ruin it again. He says, well, it's only natural for me to take the shortcut. I said, well, yeah, but you're taking the shortcut. I got a new planted front lawn. This is a detail, but this is the way they think. They now are unstoppable. They do what they want. The U.S. vetoes anything in the UN. You understand? All from the top to the bottom up. And the ones on the top are the worst ones, because they have the power, and now the U.S. backing them to just do what they want them. They can say anything and practically do what they want them. So I had to build a fence. So the fellow had to jump the fence. And I said, if anybody jumps the fence, now I got to protect my land. I'll grab you. So I forced him to go around. And the fellow kept saying, you old so-and-so, one of these days you're going to drop dead. Laugh at me. Well, the fellow dropped dead. Now they're real angry at me. It's my fault. I didn't even know the fellow dropped dead. The fellow with that kind of an attitude and that kind of daily mentality, his own personal realizing what a louse he is, maybe he was not good for him. So he came in with a dog that caused me to have a death dealing, because my lungs have been damaged from trying to help people in Ireland and in the Mideast. And so I got an infection that was critical. Got an expert and cleared it, but I have to be very careful. My wife now is suffering from something that is critical, because when she was young, had a lung damage, and she can't take, well, that has been finally cleared. That has been finally cleared. What isn't cleared is the criminally insane King George, Queen Hubris, who would say, we have the authority, by hook or crook, they get the power. That counter Vietnam won the first time. It was a rigged election, and the way they did it with the Supreme Court ruling that he's in charge, has the authority, and they went wild. I saw a senator that looked and acted on public TV in the U.S. like he was Himmler. I swear, I couldn't believe it. In the U.S., there's a fellow that just stood there and says, this is what it is, to the people of the United States, to his colleagues, and then they represent people of the United States. Yeah. It's these fellas, I think they're called neocons, that are supplying under the table anybody that'll do whatever they want for that day, not even a week or a month or a policy of years. You understand? We were with Iran against Iraq. Then we were with Iraq against Iran. Then we're with somebody else against Iran. Then we're with Iran against somebody else. Then we're against Iraq. So nationally we ain't that. No, now with Iran. Then the war in Iraq was phonied up, and that was proved by the House of Commons in England that they phonied it. Now we're against Iran. We were with Pakistan against Russia, and that caused Russia to collapse. If you look at it, if Russia had taken control of Afghanistan and then made a treaty with the next nation south of it, it gets to the Indian Ocean, you have maybe a new ball game now. You have where Russia only has a warm water port, they have a warm water port in the warm area of the South Sea Islands. You get where they have a big triangle then from Moscow down to that port, to Vladivostok. And military strategist says, whatever it costs us, we got to stop that. So it wasn't the Afghan people that decided, it was the U.S. militarists. And I'm telling you that they have some sharp ones there. George Patton is dead, but don't underestimate him. I ought to know, because they would take my advice. And I'll be blunt. We're now going to have a shooting war with China. But at the same time, we are already at war with North Korea, with the Chinese volunteers that were there. You understand what's going on? So how can I help my country? Well, if we don't get them to go to the ocean in a big triangle, the only way maybe you can defeat Russia is from south to north. You understand? Nobody's ever beaten them going from west to east. So they have put all big projects going a southern belt, which is a big area. Well, they not only murdered my brother, Hoover experimented him to death to show his power, but I'm in this country as an American, not because of Hoover. I'm here as an American, so I do what's best for my country. Now what's best for my country is we have to clear out of Washington, starting with the King George, Queen Hoover. They're not democracy, hypocrisy, the hypocrites. They really want the power and the money and the money and the power. As George Bush Sr. said, I don't see why they're complaining. I did real good while I was president. Yeah, they have a blind trust. He don't know what's going on. And this blind trust, he has so much money, but then when he leaves, it has so much value. They all became multi-rich. You can buy baseball teams and deals and whatever. Yeah. You understand? As the King George were related to the royalty. So we should rule. So I was forced to say, whatever I can do, that murdering of my father's family and that criminal against my family, and every day, day after day, they keep insisting they're going to keep hitting my family, and what can I do about it? That's what they did with my father's family. And my father says, take me, but don't kill one of my sons. No. They want to experiment with a man that was 6 feet, great athlete, singer, played the piano, real popular with the girls, just a good American man. Didn't know what was going on, and they experimented to death. They purposely took a young man from my hometown of Rochester, New York, who wanted to be a policeman, and had him in the best clothes you could buy as a security officer, report to me when I was doing security work. And I says, you're Italian descent from Rochester? He says, yeah. And right away I knew it. Hoover is experimenting on this man like he did with my brother. Because he don't stop, and he don't stop with women either, or children. There's nobody they won't experiment with. And now they finally admit that they eavesdrop on everybody. No, it's because they can figure out, like the Nazis, super science. They can super have their science control. And like that Himmler-like fella said, this is it. Just like that. He said, this is it. I rule this. And that's what it had to be. You see, that's what they want to do. This is it. All you poor unemployed, they'll give you a bonus. Get into the army. You risk your life, but then you go to Iraq. I got the troops there. If I don't use them, I'll lose them. You put them there because you wanted to go to war, but then you had the surprise. One of them wouldn't vote. That was supposed to vote to give you 51. Then they rigged up intelligence from English and U.S. intelligence with slick Willie Webster. I think that's an English descent name. And the English that worked with Hoover experimented. My brother Beth took my Xerox. It was Xerox in the U.S. in my hometown, Rochester, New York, was my work, original work. So if I had all that money that was mine, do you think they would dare give me? They would say, "Oh, what a great man you are," and all that. Yeah, give us money for our and running in an election. No, they're gonna work me over and my family until I die. What can I do about it? Well, I have to say the truth at least, right? And the truth is that the King George, Queen Hoovers have been at war against anybody that they figure they're going to expand. And then the Zionists, who some say, they even brag to have control here, have influence here, want to expand. You have a loose cannon that won't sign anything as far as weapons of mass destruction, an H-bomb, an A-bomb, that's about 100, and then they have when I had the time and interest of being in the American science, it's America's #1 science group, and I would attend their meetings. American Physical Society, is the official title, AP, American Physical Society. Over 95%, I think it was 97, I think 97 voted not to have nuclear cannon. The U.S. will not agree. I says, hey, come on, that's insanity. You have 100 H-bombs, you can destroy the world, let alone one country. You got 1,000. Look at the money and the danger. Pollution, if one of them, some of them dropped from an airplane in Spain, remember, and they said he dropped some here, but they don't mention it. I think it was in North Carolina or in West Virginia or someplace. Any little thing that is negative, that they can get control of, and control of you is what they do, and then they even force. So with every action, equal opposite reaction. So I'm forced to tell it the way it is. This King George, Queen Hoover, Zionist expansion is that they will not stop unless you stop them. And the only, really, there's not one country that can stop them. Not one country. But a combination of two big countries now will not lose. They're not going out and causing war. They don't realize that with the navies the U.S. has and others controlling the earth is 3/4 surface is water, that they are surrounded. So they're forced that for mutual benefit, for their own survival, Well, the Ukraine, going back years, yeah, they were the Ukraine, but that was like our South. They call the Ukraine the breadbasket of Russia. The Ukraine had more, especially Catholic people. And I'm going to say it the way it is. They're criminally insane as far as opposition to him, personal. Stalin got so bad that if he just thought somebody looking at him, was staring at him maybe or something, he'd have him killed because he thought that he was going to kill him or plot him. He got that psycho. He trusted Hoover. Are you kidding? And they almost took all of Russia. What helped? Don't underestimate the military power of Russia, the military thinking they have. By taking half of Poland, they didn't reach Moscow. But if they didn't take half of Poland, I think Hitler would have reached Moscow. Do you understand? Now they're in a position where they have to defend themselves in what used to be all part of the Ukraine, Russia. And if they don't, they better get a military man in there now that even though Stalin was a crazy nut against religious people, at least the military were real sharp. We got to do what's best for us militarily first, is the way they did it. Now they're going a lot more by chit-chat and posturing. You better get a little support of where you can not, they got to take and not be on your border, because you have a worse loose cannon there than anything in the history of the world. You have a gang there that say, hey, we don't owe our allegiance to anybody we say, but where we get our money and our support, and we can do what we want, and this is what we want to do. We want to be like the Zionists. We want to expand easterly. We want to expand, and we're going and we'll do it unless we're stopped. Do you understand? I'm just bored at times at all these experts who talk. The way I do it is I and two other experts. And if 2 to 3 agree, then that's what the way it should be, in a democratic way. And I'm telling you that right now, outside of having my 24/7 for a program that I have to do, because if one girl is unnecessarily experimented to death, you criminally insane Hooverists, and I don't try to do something about it, then I'm not the 007, original 007 plus 2. Yeah, I have 2. I'm a real man, then I'm not 009 now. Do you understand? Between me and I believe there's a God Almighty, and that He just judges souls. So now I have to go into my main interest really is theology, and I'm forced to say that. How could it be that this God Almighty allows this to go on? This planet from way out looks like paradise, this beautiful blue planet. Beautiful blue planet. It looks like it's paradise. Maybe it was originally. So maybe there is something to the fact that a group broke away from Almighty God on this paradise, and we have to then now, as we live as human beings on this planet, we have to take and save our immortal soul. That's the way it is. It appears to me as though if God, and I'm being truthful now, God, if you're this powerful, why, I asked, is the Blessed Virgin Mary always appearing and say, pray, pray for peace? Pray, pray for the conversion of Russia, and it occurred. From a crazy Stalin, anti-religious nuts. And there's some of them still there. But what the thing is, that any group I join, they say, well, for the people, as soon as they find out I'm a religious man, sometimes religion is maybe more important personally than anything. They lose their senses as far as social science and military, whatever. Hey, that's somebody we don't want. Look, he's religious. No. There is no God. You can't mention anything about God. You can't even mention anything about God now in the United States. Because you got to keep separation of church and state. I think the originals who came here came with two flags. One of Spain and one of the church, the Roman Catholic Church. When they came to Plymouth Rock, they were religious people that wanted to leave, Puritans, that they were maybe oppressed in England. The ones who came here were done religious, that formed the colonies and so forth. They were in our government. Hey, we can't have religion in government. No. Holy smokes, what you're doing is eliminating maybe the best, honest leaders you have, instead of some punk, backroom hatchet man, political hatchet man like Slick Willie Webster was, that helped him, and then when he got elected, became director of the FBI and then of the CIA. Well, he can then do the backroom deals of what they wanted. What about all of the great men that have their lives and their work that are real agents and pledged to do best for the country? Don't mean crap. They get a political plum fellow there that's in charge, and he's the one in charge, and that's what's going to be done. So I've seen these younger men. They have to, like Hitler, not click their heels, but they have to, he's in charge, got the power. We have here a hypocrisy, not a democracy. That Hoover decided that he was going to experiment Americans to death, and he needed that, and that's what he did, and that's what they keep doing. And they kept pushing in front of my face their power and laughing. Yeah, you should be one of the most honored and wealthiest men in the world, but you're nobody. That's the way we did it. What's ours is ours, what's yours is ours. What can you do about it? You say there's an emergency. This class warfare, and I wrote a little poem, and I maybe should repeat it. Yeah, there's a saying with three, it's perfection, coming from the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, that's divine people, not anybody on earth, because they go crazy if they can say, well, yeah, there's a connection between humanity and God. And Christ told point blank, divinity is divinity. We here on this earth, this is natural material. Where did all this natural come from? It has to be a supernature. So you don't have to say you were religious or not. That's a fact. You know, and I always say, when I asked Einstein, where did all of this material come from? Mass. He's supposed to be the best expert of all time in mass. And he thought carefully, and then he said, it's just here. Now, there's supposed to be the of all time about mass, and he says it's just here. Inert mass cannot create itself. Somehow, some way, there had to be a supernatural power to create this nature we have. That's a true fact. And I use science to prove my religious opinions. Now, I have to say this because it was the night before tomorrow, and all through the Hoover House, because he called it the Hoover House, this new big building. It's got that criminally insane Homo Hoover's name on the building. How could you walk in a building with that criminally insane? He was the power behind having President Kennedy shot, of course. I think that's been proven. And you better believe me, that is what actually happened. Because I think 4 days before, they pointed a gun at me within 10 feet. They'd have to shoot through the windshield of my car. But I'm going very, very slow. Like maybe 10, 15 miles an hour, going real slow. Going around a curve. I'm just coming out of conferring with some scientists. And right, point blank, they go through the window and it hit me. But they didn't shoot. Now, if they didn't shoot, then who is he saying he's going to shoot? He's telling me, see, I could have shot you. That's the way Hoover worked. He was like a coyote, cowardly until you cornered him. And then he had the power to do whatever he wanted to. And he'd always wait until you thought you could maybe fire him or replace him, and then he would kill that person. And that's what he did over and over again. So if they weren't going to shoot me, then who are they going to shoot? Well, in my opinion, I noticed that that woman hater was saying that he wanted to see Jackie Kennedy out of Washington. Now some say, hey, he kind of has sort of an insight. Well, yeah. If that woman hater wants to get Jackie Kennedy out of Washington, the only way you can get her out of Washington is to knock off President Kennedy. And this was as much as 3 to 5 months before. So I did all I could. I made it believe I was a newspaper man even. Bought a hat and put press and walked in with him. And then the guy came running and says, you're not a newspaper man. How could he know I was not a newspaper man after I walked in with all of them? Because Hoover says, hey, you got to stop that man because he wants to talk to President Kennedy's brother-in-law, I think was Pierre Salinger, was press secretary. And I would have told him who was planning to knock off Jack Kennedy. Not in those words, but I only have so much time. I tell you these things because I was the original 007, and that was what Hoover would call me. And now I call myself 009. I have to, I'm a real man, not those less than King George, Queen Hoover hypocrisy, less than men killing, experimenting on innocent men, women, and children, or children, women, and men that they don't know. And he, what a clever fella. What a clever fella. Experimenting my brother on Christmas, because that's when Christ come into the world. Now my brother's leaving the world, and Christ's coming into the world. Where is the soul in a human being? Can we keep track? When a man dies, can we keep track of the soul going? And can we see Christ coming in that spirit time of Christmas? Why especially then they could give him a birthday present? Because he has a falsified birth certificate. He's really a pass for white. And he murdered his brother-in-law. You Google Millie McGee, capital MC, capital G, H-E-E, proved he's a pass for white. And he murdered her uncle. her father's brother, murdered him because they were exposing who were, and his birth certificate, well, when? Well, they put, when was he born? Well, January 1st. You understand? That's my opinion, but for sure, it's a phony birth certificate. And for sure, she proved. And Reverend Martin Luther King knew this, but he didn't want to bring up the race issue, especially him. But he wanted Hoover replaced. And the day I was to mail my, like I'm saying, written, concise of just Hoover's crimes, which I had videos, on that day when I looked at the newspaper on the way to mail that, that's the way Hoover worked. Martin Luther King was shot. Bobby Kennedy, I was there trying to save his life. Face to face. Not once, twice. And come to think of it, a third time. And now as I think about it, John Kerry must have been there. John Kerry knows who I am. I remember a tall fellow. Especially when I stopped him going down the stairs. He might have been in the hall when I went up and talked to him twice, not once, twice. And I remember it was a tall fellow turned around with his brother-in-law Ted and Ethel and all of them when I said, you got to come back the same way. Up this, I made it even poetic. Come back the same way on these circular stairs to the presidential suite, the Ambassador Hotel. You were a little different. Well, why not walk behind him like I wanted to do? Hey, he experimented my brother to death. They kill me, who's going to protect my children? And that's what they are now. They're saying, what can you do? We can do anything we want to. Yeah, we're purposely doing what we want to. Fight back, so we can say you're angry or you say things, and then they can get anybody to frame me if they wanted to. But they got the power. And they know now they cannot win. Do you understand that? If they would have done it, if they wouldn't have murdered my brother, after all their crimes, if they wouldn't have murdered my brother and had him like he should have been, or just a regular man, just an American, having a wife and a family. Now there's a girl that lost a great man and a family because Hoover didn't care about women and he was a women hater. Huh? They proved to me that they actually let women get murdered so they can document it, so they can put on a big national, international, how good, smart they are and good they are. That's Hooverism. Yeah. Bobby, come on, back up these circular stairs. Bobby, you do it my way, they got to get me first. But I'm not going to walk behind and have me get murdered. And then you would say, well, I don't know who that guy is. You know who I am. I put the card under your pillow saying, you've got to be real careful, Bobby. Isn't that true that you wouldn't talk to me? They got to you. Whatever they told you, I don't know. But you made a critical mistake. And now I'm looking at those who are to defend themselves. They are making a second critical mistake. It wasn't a question about me being a troublemaker. It's a question that the U.S. says we are at war with North Korea. And they won't do anything but say, no, they're at war with North Korea. They won't sign a peace treaty, no matter what. And they have territory that is not theirs as part of North Korea. And now there's historically, the breadbasket of Russia is now going to become taken over by neo-Nazis as a loose cannon. More dangerous than anything in the history of the world. Because then they can have 97% with me standing up and saying that I think I can speak about nuclear energy and nuclear bombs. Because it was I who insisted that we have a Super Manhattan Project for an H-bomb. And I said, a small nuclear bomb? Well, yeah, a small atom bomb. Because one hydrogen bomb, when I put it forward, I said was, 100 plus or minus more than an A-bomb. That was back, 50 years at least. And it's now up to 1,000 times more powerful. One H-bomb, they now can get it, I think, like 1,000. One H-bomb can destroy, well, 10 A-bombs. Well, let's say, all right, one H-bomb can destroy what 10 A-bombs can do. Well, if they have nuclear cannon now, you see, it's not a real A-bomb, it's a little small A-bomb. Yeah, but if you fire 10 of these small bombs, it'll equal an A-bomb. Who you're trying to sauce is an expression I use. You're having nuclear war. Well, now, if they get on the border, they will make a mistake, their second mistake. But this one now isn't just on the peripheral. It's right in the front trenches. They have to not like that fella got on there and said, we're not taking advice from a third-rate American. You prejudiced, stupid punk! No, I'm not born in Russia or China or Pakistan or Afghanistan or in Iraq, no. But I've decided that by religion and by humanity, yeah, is more important than some military fella that's prejudiced and some stupid jerk that wants to badmouth me. When at the time they're getting ready to get a loose cannon that'll blow your silly brains out. Now you got me to call you silly. Well, action is equal and opposite reaction. You call me third rate and I call you silly. Now, you have where nobody, no government, no individual should be able to say they're going to use a nuclear weapon. You've got to decide, are we going to be a planet of human beings or are we going to be survivors of some weird ruined planet? And the first thing I did to say was that we have to then go to the diplomats. And Russia has a top diplomat. Because I said, you know, I'd like to be in the statement. They dress good, they speak good, and they conferences and they try to do good. They have pride in that. But they purposely, those Hoover woman haters, showed me experiment women to death. Actually kill women so they get the evidence and they know. That fella from Rochester, New York, they went berserk and he killed women. He was such a good kid. He's just a young man trying to be a policeman or a good security man, spot everything. And oh boy, they'll do to him like they did my brother. They'll experiment him to death maybe. Well, he went berserk and he killed women. And they knew him. And they let me pass by him face to face. I could have grabbed him. Everybody's looking for him. No, they wanted to cover up that they used him experimentally. And that's how he went berserk. Yeah, these are the true facts. The power is a pyramid of power. At the top was Hoover. And I had the ability, and I was batting 1,000, and I still am. Whether anybody likes it or not, you do it my way first. Then if I'm wrong, then try it your way. And there can't be any loose cannon to start World War III. They're already at war, have been at war continuously. Isn't that what they told me? And that was at least 25 years ago. Now, in regards to this poem, it was the night before tomorrow, and all through the Hoover house was hidden grief and true sorrow. I'm going to explain it. It was the night before Christmas, is how the poem starts. That's when they experimented my brother to death to see if they can keep track of spirit going from the body up into and God, the Spirit of God, and coming into the world, and the spirit of man going out of the world. Isn't that fiendish? Huh? That the people say they're, oh, we're going to fight for Hooverism. No, you've got to fight for your humanity and yourselves here. You cannot trust the coward of Vietnam. Well, there's two parties. One of them wants to be in power. Yeah, but you can't have a Himmler type there. The people have got to get better. I can't be a candidate. They won't let me be a candidate on purpose. I'll say everything just the way it is. Now you say that, you're going to offend everybody, and then that's why you're alone. No. I'm alone because the main reason is because they forced me to be alone. Another reason is during all these decades, anybody that said, you know, you're right, like a top lawyer in Washington, D.C., a top lawyer in Washington, D.C., known all throughout that city, says, of course, you're telling the truth. And I know a couple of things I know some things about Hoover even you don't know, because this is my town too, not only Hoover's. He says, Friday I sign and make legal action against Hoover, what I know of him. On Friday, I would have went in his office. Where is he? They're burying him. Do you understand how fiendish Hoover was? Hoover knocked him off and buried him at the time we were supposed to work together. The great hero, Melvin Purvis, they wanted to make him director, which they should have. But Hoover got him out of the FBI. No, not director. Got him. There wasn't even an A. Got him out. They're great guys. Their lives, their work, but they get a political backroom hatchet man, political plum appointment that'll do what they want to do for that fella. And that's what Slick Willie Webster was and is. They falsified to get that one vote to go to war against Iraq. No. Those are the true facts. So it's the night before tomorrow. Any night, any tomorrow, where they're expanding, and they'll keep expanding unless you stop them. And that's just what the Zionists are doing. Oh, I had the double fence. Yeah. You put a double fence, and the UN patrols that road in between the two fences, and you have peace. The Zionists can't say they got the right to go into Arab land, and the Arabs haven't got the right. And some of them are radicals. You get radical Arab. Nobody's good unless they're of their religion. There's radicals in everything. But you put that double fence there, and you say, look, you stay there. Now, if anything, they got to do with the UN. Not the U.S. giving them planes, tanks, and guns and shooting them. And expanding, and then they said, hey, we're going to bomb you. That fellow says we're going to bomb you. For at least a year, and over again. Anybody that knew what was going on, he's going to bomb us. I was saying about 3 or 4 days before, the day before the plane slammed into the building, the Zionists had ready vehicles with cameras. And when the plane landed there, what a coincidence, they're standing there filming this and jumping up and down and gleeing. Hey, they got like a Pearl Harbor now. His rating is down to the lowest ever, but he's in Florida that helped him rig with his brother there to get the rig so he had the presidency, the power. He's reading to children. And they tell him about it, but he's busy reading. He's not in Washington. He doesn't know what's going on. But the Zionists have got cameras filming it, jumping up and down. You got a Pearl Harbor now. He'll say, yeah, we go into Iraq, and that's what the Zionists want. Instead of us killing Arabs, we get the American men and women killing Arabs. And we just get more stronger and more power and more money. That the Wall Street fellas got billions that were Federal Reserve, but it's not federal, it's private, by CEO of the bank. And that CEO gives his bank then $365 billion because they're too big to be bankrupt. Then the other one says, look, I got only $330 billion, the other fellow, the other bank, when he became head of the Federal Reserve. He said, I saved you $30 billion. See, they're doing you favors all the time. Was the night before tomorrow, and all through the Hoover house, while he's got that permanently insane home over, he's got his name on the building, was hidden grief and true sorrow. Those in there that I talked to, especially in the Justice Department, they just, it was, you could see, look, this is my job. If I don't do it, somebody else will do it, maybe not even as much caring as I am, because that's the way they're doing it. It's the Hoover system. And as you say, the fellow is pointing at the pyramids, more power than the president. Because of the demon Gort. Well, according to some religions, there is a demon on this world, and I don't think so. I think there's just sin that occurs. But some preachers insist there's a demon. Well, I say no. But Gott is the Nazi, I think, word for God. Is anti-God. If this was paradise and way out, it's a beautiful paradise, and look what's going on. How could God let this go on? It's because we have our own free will. I can say what I'm saying now, and you can agree, you cannot agree, you can be against me. We all have our free will. We're human beings. We're not animals. We have to have life on this earth. We are of the same composition, or the animals are the composition of us. Whatever, whatever, we had to come from, be created by a supernatural power. And believers say this power is the divinity, divine power of God. Now, because of the demon Gott, hypocritical louse. Well, louse rhymes with house, louse. Hoover, house, hypocritical louse. That fellow was more than a louse. They're force-feeding the patriotic agent souls. Purvis wanted to be definitely still a top FBI agent, not out of the FBI. Isn't that correct? FBI agents that still say, yeah, our supervisors are right. He's against us. Who isn't with us is against us. So we have to then kill him off, or keep, and nobody knows, kill him off, and do it the Hoover way. He's got an excuse for those who aren't real men or real women. Violating God's, humanity's, the Constitution's guarantees. So now I have souls and guarantees. The King George, Queen Hoovers are stoking up class warfare coals. Now we get to military science, and now I started this. I'm going to try to complete it inside of an hour. They are stoking the coals of class warfare. Our system, well, the system of this, where it's based on individuals. Individual don't have to care about nation. He can make deals with an individual of money in another nation. And then they have get-togethers about control, money and control. Isn't that correct? For shameful Obama, Karenberg, posturing as referees. Now, referee range with guarantees. You have to understand that they can't do it by righteousness. They're dead. They're dead. Christ, they're dead. They ain't worth my time. They do all kinds of things against my family now to get me angry. They try to get me angry to try to keep arguing with them. Because if they don't be in this nice warm weather arguing with me, they'd have to maybe be sent overseas in the front lines to do something that's dangerous. And hey, they ain't going to get killed or hurt. They'd rather be out here in this nice sunshiny area giving me a bad time. They got no worries. Hey, you understand? Now, why am I saying not any particular person? I'm just saying it's Obama, whoever, no connection with anybody, purely coincidental. Same with Karenberg. No connection, it's purely coincidental. Just the idea that they have done, these people, like the U.S. does not really know who I am, what I've achieved. Super patriots, super achievements. Now they go through super gyrations and money of the people's money. The money they spend on me to try to kill me off and give me a bad time. You say, well, hey, who's trying to kill you? Oh, it's your thinking. Hey, right now, 88, I've got severe spinal injuries. My legs. I have severe injuries. I have damaged lungs. My wife has a condition. She now limps a little from this condition. My daughter nearly died twice, not once, twice. And the second time it looked like she was really going to die, and I had a woman say, oh, well, that happens. What happens? You force my daughter to work day and night to try to keep her family together, and she gets under stress because she, through the years, sees what's going on with me, and it causes her stress. That happens, huh? That she always then, once in a while, starts crying. She says, Dad, I'm worried about you. Marilyn, look, I'm an old, they say, soldier. Don't worry about me. And that's how the 007 started. Is that I would joke around with the girls that my daughter worked with, the store next to the one that same company. You see? They use anybody for anything and then cover it up. That Italian descent man that went berserk because and then they took and let him live until they could film him killing 2 other girls at least. And now they put on a big show. Look at the evidence. This is how we work. Look, he's a murderer. We got to kill him. He's a murderer. That's the way the Hoover system is. The black girl that I says, let's do something. Maybe we can save her. And he says, you don't move. The FBI guy, they usually have a great big guy above me, because I took boxing and I know how to box. And now I got in trouble for using my fist. I can't use my fist. Somebody hits me, I got to duck, and that's what the attorneys tell me. Now you're in a position like a fighter. A fighter can't, if somebody punches a fighter, he can't punch back because he knows how to use his fist. He's got to just duck. and call a policeman. Now and say, hey, they're doing something against me. Well, Hoover had to investigate himself to prove. Now it's an hour. And I'm telling you, these are the true facts. They have got to give me reasonable honors and compensation. And those who finally is dawning on them, you know, maybe he wasn't born in our country, but let's not be a stupid third-rate jerk and discount the true facts. You have to defend yourself. And my suggestion is, from what I see, after conferring with two other experts, is a unanimous 3. And they say, you know, there's a St. Alfred that you have to defend yourself. And to those who understand that, don't wait until tomorrow. You get tonight that by tomorrow you get where you defend yourself, and that is to stop their expansion, because they'll keep expanding unless you stop them, and they'll have a loose cannon that's the most dangerous, in my opinion, in the history of the world. To all those who have an interest in me, I say thank you.